Tonight, a minority in Parliament demands resignation of Lands and Natural Resources Minister Emmanuel Armah-Kofi Buah, accusing him of flip-flopping on the Ewoyaa Lithium Agreement, which has been withdrawn from Parliament pending fresh consultation on government royalty rates.
The minority of the 9th Parliament in Parliament is of the firm view that the honourable course of action is for the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources to resign or be relieved of his position in the interest of accountability, good governance, and restoration of public trust in the management of Ghana's mineral resources.
Well, we have details plus take you live to Ewoyaa, where the Ministry of Lands is in strong engagement with the chiefs and people of the area. Here on Top Story, brought to you always by Telecell Connect and Energies, Holy Insecticide Spray and Coil, Enjoy Holy Sleep, and also by Shield Pension Trust. Into the future with you. My name is Samuel Kojo Brace. Tonight, the minority in Parliament is demanding an immediate resignation of Minister of Lands and Natural Resources Emmanuel Armah-Kofi Buah over what they describe as his mismanagement of the lithium deal with Barari DV. Their call comes in reaction to the minister's decision to withdraw the deal from Parliament for further stakeholder consultations on what will be appropriate royalty rate for government and the country. Now, according to the minority, the minister took a defensive position when the minority, raised concerns about the terms of the agreement when it was presented to Parliament, insisting that it was a much better deal than the one that the MPP, brought to Parliament when they were in power. Today, the minority group have heavily descended on the lands minister, accusing him of flip-flopping on the engagement. Listen to MP for Otafo, Vincent Eko Asifwa, address journalists in Parliament.
These developments, coming after the minister had publicly and emphatically assured Parliament and the Ghanaian people that the agreement satisfied all necessary requirements, raise grave concerns about ministerial responsibility, credibility, and standards of governance. This matter is not about punishment. It is about responsibility. When a minister gives Parliament firm and unequivocal assurances that all legal, technical, and procedural requirements have been satisfied, and the same agreement is later withdrawn on the basis that those requirements were not in fact fully met, accountability must necessarily follow. In every democracy, ministers bear personal responsibility for the accuracy, reliability, and completeness of the information they place before Parliament. The integrity of parliamentary oversight depends on it. The minister forcefully defended the agreement, dismissed concerns raised by the minority and civil society, and presided over its presentation to Parliament for ratification. The subsequent withdrawal of the agreement, now explained on grounds of inadequate consultations and the need for further review, represents a direct contradiction of the assurances previously given to Parliament. This sequence of events amounts to an implicit admission that Parliament was asked to proceed on the basis of information that was, at best, incomplete. While the minority recognizes the consultation and stakeholder engagement are essential of responsible governance, such engagement must occur before an agreement is defended and laid before Parliament, not after it has been withdrawn under public pressure. It is neither reasonable nor acceptable to assure Parliament that consultations have been concluded, only to later rely on insufficient consultation as justification for a reversal. It is this inconsistency between what Parliament was told and what has now been conceded that lies at the core of our concern.
So that was the MP for Otafo there. Now, the minority still insist the lands minister must resign or get sacked immediately.
Lithium is a strategic mineral with far-reaching implications for Ghana's industrialization agenda, energy transition, youth employment prospects, environmental protection, and intergenerational equity. The management of such a resource demands clarity, consistency, and foresight. The minister's erratic handling of this matter has undermined public confidence, weakened Ghana's negotiating position, and exposed Parliament to avoidable embarrassment. In any functioning democracy, a sector minister who presides over such contradictions and uncertainty on a matter of national importance must take responsibility for his action. In these circumstances, the minority of the 9th Parliament in Parliament is of the firm view that the honourable course of action is for the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources to resign or be relieved of his position in the interest of accountability, good governance, and restoration of public trust in the management of Ghana's mineral resources. The minority reiterates its unwavering commitment to defending the national interest and ensuring that Ghana's strategic resources are exploited in a manner that delivers real value to the Ghanaian people, both now and for generations yet unborn. We will continue to discharge our constitutional oversight mandate without fear or favor.
MP for Otafo Vincent Kwasefua there, but we'll take you to Parliament soon. But let me bring in my colleague James Avedzi, because he was in Parliament yesterday, and this, as we know, this position taken by minorities started brewing on the floor of yesterday. James, you were in the House. Tell us more.
Well, Brace, it was, this whole discussion started with the minority leader, Alexander Penyumakin, when he mounted some, he together with his colleagues mounted some, objection to some provisions in a number of bills that were supposed to be passed yesterday, some which went under consideration. And in some cases, when they raised the objection, the majority side also raised objection to that, insisting that the provisions must stand. For instance, in the Bank of Ghana Amendment Act, they made some objections and recommendations to two of the provisions. Then he hinted that it is becoming a position of the majority to bring things to Parliament and refuse to listen to the position of the minority when they raise concerns about some of these deals and bills. He went on further to talk about the fact that the majority or government nowadays prefer to listen to civil society organizations instead of their counterpart in Parliament, who are supposed to be part of this deliberations to build the best deals and bills for the country Ghana. And so he made these assertions and insisted that if made example of this particular lithium deal, which he said when was brought to Parliament, they raised objections and concerns about it. Government did not listen. They went on to lay it, only for them to turn around later to come and withdraw it, because according to him, the government had faced some stiff oppositions and threats from these CSOs who were part of the consultations, who warned them not to go ahead with it as it is. If they do, they may face some level of resistance from the CSOs, for which reason government came back to withdraw this bill.
It is now the norm. It is now the norm from the new majority that every bill, certificate of urgency, if it is so, I want Hansa to record that this all-important bill that has just been introduced, today, everything must be taken. Is that a new norm? Certificate of urgency, Mr. Speaker? This is a new norm. Every bill that is brought, before you realize, certificate of urgency. Then we sit in this house, so far, we sit in this house and civil society organizations will raise issues. When civil society organizations raise issues, then you are quick to come to this house. When parliamentarians are raising matters because of their partisan interests, you don't listen. Mr. Speaker, I would want to say that it would be wrong, Mr. Speaker, to take this bill through certificate of urgency same day. Let's tread cautiously. It happened in the Lithium Agreement. Honorable Abu Jinapo raised it here. Our colleagues opposite defended it when Imani and other civil society organizations came in and added their voice. You now came to this house humbly withdrawing and now calling for stakeholder consultation. What is the urgency? When MPs do not get the opportunity to scrutinize, go ahead. Your masters, the CSOs, will be at your throat.
So that's the minority leader, Alexander Afenyo-Markinde. Let me take you to Parliament now, where Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kwaku Asante has been monitoring issues from today. Kwaku, do we have any response from the majority side?
Well, Brace, I understand that the ministry itself will put out a statement on that. In fact, their public relations officer, Kwaku Asante, has already been speaking to it. But one very highly placed was telling me that they think that the position being canvassed by the minority is complete nonsense, and that they do not believe that a minister ought to resign simply because he came to Parliament to withdraw a bill put before the House, which they have, consequent to the public concerns that have been shared about the royalties deal, have simply withdrawn it so that they can amend the laws having to do with royalties and then put the bill, that agreement back before the House. They do not think that the call from the minority on this is merited.
So, despite the fact that they have this feeling, you haven't seen any member of the majority who probably is giving some sort of reaction to what they are calling for?
Not at all. In fact, all of them telling me that, off the record, when I approach a lot of them to speak to this, they say that the ministry will be in a better place to respond to the specifics of the issues that have been raised by the minority on this matter. However, they believe that the minister did this on a very good basis because of the very important nature of the concerns that have been shared by members of the public about the royalties that have been agreed in that particular deal. So withdrawing it is not flip-flopping. Okay. It is actually listening to the people, for which reason you put the deal there, and then working on it in such a way that the Ghanaian people will accept.
Kwaku, I'm grateful to you. That's Kwaku Asante, our Parliamentary Affairs correspondent there, joining us from the House of Parliament. Let's now bring you into the substantive issue here about the deal, because the Land Minister, we are learning, has moved his engagement to Ewoyaa in the Central Region, which is a community where this lithium has been found. And the mining, of course, will be taking place there to hear from the people. This is after engagement with civil society organizations and other groups of interest here in Accra. We've been joined on the line by spokesperson for the ministry, Pakwesi Shandov. Pakwesi, I want to understand the focus of your engagement today in Ewoyaa, where you were.
Well, so Brace, yesterday was when we moved into the township of Ewoyaa to engage the locals and the chiefs there on the lithium agreement. Indeed, it was a very fruitful interaction that we had with them. Of course, they expressed their concerns about the general delay that has animated the entirety of the agreement, but we conveyed the assurances of government, and it sat down well with them. And so we are hoping that as we progress, we'll be able to satisfy their interest, which of course is already the focus and the priority of the sector minister, Honorable Emmanuel Armah-Kofi Buah.
The last time we were in the community, the focus of the members there was about how their lives have been put on hold. Did this come up? And if it did, what was the assurances from the ministry?
Absolutely. They did indicate, like you said, that their livelihoods have been truncated. They are not able to go to their farms. Those of them who are building say that they've had to halt all their constructions. And so really, they vented and they expressed these frustrations. The assurance and the commitments that we give to them was that we're going to engage the management of the Atlantic Lithium as well. Indeed, the manager was there. Ahmed Salim was part of that particular engagement. And so we listened to that concern, and what we are going to do now is to sit and engage on whether there is the possibility of an interim relief measure while we wait for the operationalization of the concession proper after the deal has been ratified by Parliament.
Where do we go from here?
From here, we are continuing with the stakeholder engagement. Indeed, on Monday, we met civil society organizations. Yesterday, I represented the minister together with another colleague at Ewoyaa. Next week, the engagements will continue. We are hoping that latest by the close of the year, we would have dotted all our I's and then crossed all the T's, and then firmed up a more beneficial agreement that will inure to the good of the people of Ewoyaa and then the entirety of the country. Then from there, we begin the conversation on ratification yet again.
All right. And I mean, you've had the minority's call for the minister to resign or be sacked. What's the ministry's position on this call?
It is absolutely baseless. It is one of those calls that every Ghanaian should ignore because, like I had cause to indicate earlier on the pause, if you want to criticize any move, that criticism and feedback must be grounded in the proper perspective and substance. I do not see the leg or the merit of this particular one because, like I've earlier explained, conversations are ongoing. We have met civil society organizations. Indeed, all other relevant stakeholders are being engaged. So when anybody now comes to the fore and says that the man at the helm who is shepherding and spearheading the entire agreement should be set aside, it begs the question, what is the point? What is the basis? And the minority also argued. They argued that, well, because initially the minister was fronting fervently for the agreement and now he has taken a different position, that is an indication of inconsistency and failure. But of course, that is nothing close to that. It is just an indication of the willingness of the government to take better steps. And of course, change, I've always said, is inevitable. Look, as we are here, if any of us, like the way we are in the Christmas festivities, if any of us is making any purchasing agreement or any purchasing arrangement whatsoever, and then we make a commitment and then we realize upon introspection that we can actually grab a better deal, if we embrace that better arrangement, does that in any way mean that we are failures and we are being inconsistent?
But don't you agree with them that means anytime you're entering into an agreement that the minority is not aware of and doesn't put you on that scrutiny, you could shorten Ghana because of the deal you enter, because you don't probably understand. And that's the argument that we told you didn't listen. Now you've withdrawn it. So we don't trust that you're the right man to run or demand the Ghana's Lands and Natural Resources Ministry.
The withdrawal of the agreement is not in response to the calls by the minority whatsoever. Indeed, like I said, the ministry and the minister had been engaging a lot of stakeholders, and it became apparent, even following Imani's reports to government, that certain tweakings had to be done with respect to the content of the draft. It is as simple as that. It's not because the minority necessarily were calling and then we refused and now we have come to the tip of the iceberg and then we are retreating. It is not about the minority. It is about crafting a deal that benefits the entirety of Ewoyaa and makes Ghana the priority, which is the focus of the minister. And like I've earlier indicated, change at any given point should be welcome in our governmental discourse. It shouldn't be the case that if at any point government takes a decision and government is surprised with better information and government wants to make a move, then necessarily government is failing. That deduction, I think, is too simplistic, reason for which the calls from the minority should be outrightly ignored.
Okay, grateful to you, Kwaku Asante. There he speaks for the Land and Natural Resources Ministry. This is still top story brought to you by Telecel Connecting Energy is wholly insecticide spray and coil enjoy holy sleep, and also by Shield Pension Trust into the future with you. Now let's bring in people who really understand issues about the extractives and bring in Samuel Bekwing. He's Executive Director of the Center for Extractives and Development Africa. Sammy, I'm grateful to you for joining us. Now you are part of those who met the minister. What do you make of where we are today in terms of how the government, the new LI government wants to introduce to Parliament to ensure that we have a scalable royalty rate?
Thank you, Sammy. Can you hear me?
Clearly.
Thank you so much. Good evening to all your viewers and listeners at the same time. Yes, I am part of the civil society group that the minister met, and I must say I commend the minister for the engagement with the civil society. First of all, I just want to mention we understand this from the previous government to this government, and we know that at the time of the previous government, we had called for a policy on transition minerals, including lithium. Lithium is not the same as gold. We have to be very clear from the start. Our viewpoint is that we don't want the ministry to use an agreement to decide our policy path. However, I'm not blaming this minister. This is an agreement that was there already.
But it wasn't the one he took to Parliament, to be fair.
Sorry?
I'm saying that yes, the agreement was there, but there were slight changes than the one that he came to meet. Not so.
In fact, when you look at the minister's new agreement, which I have the old and the new agreement, we already had it before even the minister called us. I would say that he has sought to strengthen the agreement than to weaken it. He has sought to strengthen it. And I always say, you don't eat the goose that lays the golden eggs. It's very, very important. Today, as we speak, do you know that Côte d'Ivoire is attracting more investment than Ghana, even in their mining sector? So when you are deciding on your fiscals, it is always important to take a regional viewpoint. Unfortunately, we don't have an African fiscal harmonization. If all of us were to charge the same thing, investors wouldn't have any option than to work in any of the countries that may only have political stability. But because we have different fiscal regimes, it is always important to check and make sure you view you take decision based on the regional, what other competitors may have as well. The initial agreement had a straight 10% royalty in there. I was a bit worried for the investor, but at that time, the price of lithium was doing well, and so the investor had done its modeling. And for you to decide whether you'll be able to pay 10% lithium, everybody knows. Every student of economics, every student of extractive natural resource management knows that the best way to decide is to use a net present value or internal rate of return approach. It is very clear. All the modeling we do even as civil society to help government decide, that is what we use. And so with the price of lithium collapsing, going down to about $800 per ton as at now, it may be very difficult for the investor to afford that. No doubt about that. The minister resorting to a price-based sliding scale, I would say, may have been the best option because we have it in the gold sector.
But Sammy, initially, the one he took to government pegged the royalty rate at 5%. There was nothing like sliding scale. It came after there were concerns were raised, not so.
Well, that is why the minister had listened to the public. In fact, we all civil society, Dr. T always also lead us, Ben is there, among others. I mean, we had opportunities where some of our seniors had spoken to the minister about the possible sliding scale, which would have been the best option, and it was also in implementation already in the gold sector. And for now that the minister seems to have listened, I think is one of the best options, meaning that it is both a win-win situation. When prices are down, you don't kill the goose that lays the golden egg. You work with the investor. When prices go up, you are guaranteed a higher percentage of the royalty. And in any way, when you get opportunity to take royalty, you take it. Because royalty, let me be very emphatic, is just a loan. Because royalties are tax deductible, and it's just not in Ghana. It's not only in Ghana that is tax deductible. In fact, the whole of Africa, it's only in Tanzania that you cannot deduct your royalties from your cost. So it helps you to front load some of your revenue ahead of time, which is good for us. Look at the mineral royalties and what we do with it in some of the districts. So minister has now listened with the sliding scale. We believe it is the best option because the investor will view that and say, at this price, I can model. At that price, I can model my field because it's very clear in the law.
But when this investor was not complaining, when it was around $700 and wanted the agreement ratified, must it be an argument of whether the investor was worried about the current rate, which today is around 1,300, and therefore we had to withdraw the 10% to say let's bring in 5% earlier, now a sliding scale one?
In the earlier part, who said the price was lower than now? It wasn't. There was a high price in 2020.
In 2024, how much was it?
I can't give you the exact figure, but this is the trend of the lithium price. It was higher in early 2016-17 because remember, it was a transition mineral. Electric cars were coming up, and the new era was for electric cars, and especially when Tesla built its bigger factory. So it went really up. In fact, it went really up that most people went to invest in lithium as a result of the price. And then it collapsed from 2023 coming. Significantly. It came down significantly.
So that's where my argument is that this same, in 2024, they were trying to push this ratification. Not so. When the prices, we understand, had collapsed. So now that it is doing better, why do we still hold on to the argument of the prices are not doing better now, and so we have to find a way to make sure that the investor is sort of relieved?
When you are, I have to say this, when you are investing or when you are dealing with a private company, you have to make sure that you also have to have your model. In 2024, I doubt they were pushing for, I think one of the best questions you should ask is, why was it not passed? It's very important for you to ask that question. I don't think the investor was happy with the 10%. In fact, some of our members had raised concerns that even the 10% the investor had, they were doubting whether the investor will get investment. Remember that you would need to raise money. And at some point, when prices collapse, it may be very difficult for you to raise that money. So you can still get the lease and probably not be able to put in the adequate investment that you may need because your fiscals may not be right. Because if you come to me for an investment, I will look at all those things before I'll make an investment decision to put my money or not. So at that point, I don't think the investor was really happy with the 10%. And I don't think the prices were so low as you have said. And then I would check the lithium price anyway, but I don't think it was so low because when you look at the trend, it has been coming down.
But I mean, in 2024, you even alluded to the fact that from 2021 to 2022, the price started coming down. We know that it came around $700. Now it has risen, and that's why we're asking that question. But you say that this is the right way to go. The sliding scale is the best.
Yes, because with the sliding scale, you give the opportunity for the investor to be able to at least invest one, and whenever the price is higher, you are able to also capture the gains that the investor may make as well through your sliding scale. And it is not new. In all our development agreements with the gold sector, we have it. So
Samuel Kojo, I'm grateful to you for joining. Let's just bring in a member of the Lands Committee of Parliament, Akwesi Kunedu. Akwesi, I'm grateful to you, sir, for joining. Now, the explanation is that the sliding scale is the best. It helps Ghana gain more than we were going to fix ourselves in. You disagree?
Let me say a very good evening to you. First and foremost, I disagree to that. I mean, a sliding scale ordinarily by itself will not let the country gain. It is about what you do with the sliding scale, what percentages you put in the sliding scale, and what price band ranges that you put in the sliding scale. The current proposal by the minister, in terms of the ally that he would want to bring, will not let Ghana benefit the way we ought to benefit. First and foremost, the lithium agreement, initially when it came, we had 10% in it in last year, and they brought 5%. When we inquired, they told us that the 10% was not in legislation, and therefore it was an illegal act, and it ought to be legislated. So in any case, that was even not an argument that was solid and valid enough. But if you are going to legislate and put that percentage that you said was even illegal and was even low, you don't stand from a bandwidth of 5%. Currently what they are doing is that they are going to give us a bandwidth of all the minerals that we have, putting the initial bandwidth so high and the rate of royalties very low.
But is this enough to call on the minister to resign?
First and foremost, one, he brought in a policy. We told him the policy was not right. He kept insisting on the policy. And now what he even has before us, as what he terms as the sliding scale, is much more weaker in terms of a financial arrangement on the base of Ghana's benefit than what he previously brought. Because if we let this hurriedly go in, what we are going to do is that we are going to box ourselves in at very low rates, but at high prices before those high prices can come in. What he's only trying to tell us that because currently gold prices are at about 4,300, on the sliding scale, he's put a 10% there.
Well, but that 10% kicks in at $2,301. Yours was at $3,000. So there's some better arrangement here.
There's no better arrangement here because the point is this. Once you put a sliding scale, you are fixing yourself to it. And he's putting a lower start rate. Look, what we have currently is that up until gold prices go above 1,900, we aren't going to have anything more than 5%. Let us not look only to what the price of gold are today or the price of lithium is today and use that as a benchmark. But in any case, let me ask you, when lithium prices were 800 and 700, the company was willing to pay a 10% royalty to Ghana. So what is the point about you now putting it at 1,500 for 5%, 1,800, 1,500 to 2,300 at 6%, and more up until it hits a certain point of about 3,200, we cannot benefit from a 10% royalty.
I'm grateful to you. Akwesi Konedu is member of the Lands Committee of Parliament. My name is Samuel Kojo Brace. Up next is Newsnight.